Brodes Media.
What is going on, everyone? Well, the 76ers win Game 2, and it's not a surprise whatsoever. The Sixers did not turn the ball over like they did in the first half of Game 1, and the Atlanta Hawks did not make 23-pointers like what happened in Game 1. And what do you know? They picked up their defense. The pick-and-roll defense was very stellar. Joel Embiid defensively looked like a whole new man. Ben Simmons on Trae Young was a huge factor. Matisse Thybulle as well. They tightened up everything defensively, and they showed you who the better team was. Now, I'm not telling you it was the prettiest thing in the world. The bench was a disaster in the first half, but ironically enough, the bench was a huge spark plug in the second, thanks to Shake Milton. In what universe is Shake Milton out here hitting deep threes, playing a two-man game with Dwight Howard? Bang, what do you know? Here comes Dwight with some energy as well. Shocker. It was crazy, though. That bench unit went on a ride, and it was insane. And keep in mind, the Atlanta Hawks actually took the lead at one point. In that second half, it was a 1-point lead. Here they are at the foul line. You're not feeling the greatest in the world. And that's sort of how I described how this series was going to go. They would force you to be uncomfortable. They will force you to sweat it out in moments that you normally don't think that you would. Sweat it out against a team like the Hawks. That will happen. They are gritty. They will fight. They will scratch. They will play very hard. Herter's cashing in shots left and right off the bench. Gallinari's crushing shots as well. Those two were just busting your ass shooting from deep, which was very frustrating. But ultimately, your bench and Joel Embiid were very special. And you can kind of look around the entire team and point out moments for players that were important, right? So Ben Simmons defensively was fantastic. He really was. Trae Young, by the way, shot 1 of 7 from 3. He shot 6 of 16 from the floor as a whole. So a frustrated Trae Young, not shooting the shots like he did in Game 1 type of Trae Young. And credit to Ben Simmons. And just in general, him, Joel Embiid, what they did with the pick and roll, and Ben Simmons fighting over top of screens, and Joel Embiid helping out, getting up higher with the coverage. And then even if there was maybe a possibility of lobbing it up to the big man, they did a better job closing that out. Oh, by the way, a perimeter 3 blocked by Ben Simmons, swatting Trae Young's ass. Just swatting the ball. Bang! Here's a 6'10" guy. It's not Danny Green anymore, damn it. It's Ben Simmons, and he put that impact on Trae Young. Now, there's another side to his game that's not going to be discussed as heavily as it should, and 3 field goals is just inexcusable. It's embarrassing. It's a flat-out joke. I'll crush him for his poor flaws offensively later on in the show. Let me just get my praising all the players out of the way first. Not out of the way. That's the wrong way to say it, because it deserves to be discussed. It deserves to be talked about because there were a lot of excellent things that occurred. So Ben Simmons, amazing on that end. Joel Embiid, okay? Joel Embiid is playing on one damn leg. Clint Capella had no business. And you knew that he was going to have to fight through all sorts of foul trouble all night long. And yes, Scott Foster, Tony Brothers, as soon as you saw the names get reported, you saw Sixers Twitter blow up. I'm talking hours before tip-off. The game started at 7:30, and you're telling me that at 3:30, people are bitching that the refs are going to be horrendous. The refs are going to be horrendous no matter who they play, no matter who the refs are. This is the NBA. It is. Now, Matisse Thybulle constantly gets this call on him where he's doing nothing, which is an absolute joke. Trae Young traveled how many times, but he still gets the ball. He would literally dribble the ball and pick the ball up, put it back down on the ground, and they're doing nothing about it. Kicking it out for 3, wide open 3, bang, Atlanta Hawks cash it. Well, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, guys? But that's the NBA. Why would you think anything different? The Wells Fargo Center erupted. And by the way, the atmosphere was incredible. That was my first game in a long time since the NBA shut down, and I had the goosebumps from the national anthem to the warm-ups, and just hearing the warm-ups go down with the music bumping in the center, whether it was the starting lineup, which is always my favorite thing, with the Flames going crazy, Joel, the process, Embiid, it gives you the chills, right? Your blood starts boiling because you're ready to watch some playoff basketball. It was an incredible atmosphere. I brought that up, though, because when the refs were making some of those calls on Matisse or missing those calls on Trae Young with clear-cut travel calls and double dribble calls, nothing's going on except for the fans. Boo! Boo! Great. Just great. Always fun to be back in that atmosphere. Joel Embiid, though, one leg. Here he is dropping 40 points after dropping 39 in game one. Talk about hearing the news of Jokic and letting that fuel you, letting that set the fire. Oh, yeah, I didn't win MVP. I'll show you why you fucked up. I'll show you why you messed up. Give me the basketball. Let me work you to death. And he was all over the place, hitting from deep, hitting the mid-range game. You want me to go through the list of the Joel Embiid repertoire? I think we've done that enough because he shows it every single game, how he can get to the charity stripe. It's so funny, too, when he thinks he's going to miss and he starts like moving backwards. It's sort of like when you go bowling and you bowl and you want the ball to go left, so you start tilting your whole entire body left and you think that's going to move the ball. That's what Joel Embiid does, except he actually has the powers to move it because he is making his shots when he's doing that. Although I've seen him shoot a better clip from the charity stripe, and here I am like, it was good, but I've seen better. That's because Joel Embiid is a magician out there on the basketball floor, and he dropped 40 points. It's crazy. There's really no words to describe the excellence of him. The basketball IQ is incredible. He's grown so much in that area. There is a lot of being on the floor and being all over the place that I'm not in love with based off of the meniscus tear, where I cringe. I'm like, oh no, don't do this to me. Damn it, please. No, he's behind the basket. He's on the floor. He's getting pulled down in front of the opposing team's basket. Why are we on the floor so much? I can do without that. Please, I can do with a little less of being thrown on the court all the time, Joel. Your knee, I don't know how much long we got left in the tank. I hope it's forever. It makes me nervous, though, watching him grab a rebound, plant his foot. His foot somewhat shakes, and I look over at my fiance, and she looks over at me, and we're like, oh, no. But he was good. Not only was he good, he was absolutely excellent. He got dunked on by Clint Capella with this alley-oop, and he responds within seconds with an insane monster scream dunk of his own. That was beautiful. That's what Joel Embiid does. All right, so a bad play happened, and the Wells Fargo, I will be honest with you, the building got quiet. When that Clint Capella lob went up and it was on Joel, it got quiet real quick. You could hear a pin drop. But then within seconds, when Joel responds with that beast mode type of dunk on the other side, it was exactly what you thought it would be in there, and I could hear my ears ringing because of the noise that was so intense. Shake Milton. Jesus Christ, Shake Milton. Seth Curry had some big threes in there. George Hill had some nice play in there. Dwight Howard had some nice play in there. When you think about this team, there were many moments for many guys. Tobias Harris, 16 points in the first quarter. That helped set the tone. You needed to punch this team back in the mouth. They beat you. They beat you fair and square in game one on your home floor to take away the home court advantage that you worked so hard for in the regular season. You praised it all season long. We need that number one seed. We need that number one overall seed. That is ours. We want home court advantage. We want everyone to have to fight through South Philadelphia. And then in game one in the second round, here comes the Atlanta Hawks. You need to punch them back in the mouth. And Tobias Harris was taking advantage of a lot of mismatches and taking control of some one-on-one basketball where, boom, he was going to the rack, he was scoring one-on-one, he was shooting over defenders, and that's exactly what you need to do if you're Tobias Harris. There is a bit of a knock, but I don't necessarily blame Doc Rivers either, because we've all been screaming a billion times, do not go to the all-bench lineup. You know it doesn't work. You watch this team get shelled. They get outscored every time. You're up big, and then the lead diminishes because you're throwing out 5 bench guys that just don't have enough to produce what they need to produce. So when Tobias Harris was on a roll, was on a rhythm, he yanked Tobias Harris early because they knew that they were going to stagger some minutes, but he was in a groove, and he was going, and he really was a walking bucket at that moment. He took him off the floor to utilize him later. Now, we've been screaming he had to do that. We've been screaming he needs to stagger the minutes. So I'm not going to crush Doc Rivers at all because he did what we wanted to. I'm just saying you saw a scenario where even though it's the alternative, it wasn't necessarily a perfect thing either, because that first half bench selection was god-awful. And Doc said he challenged the bench in halftime in the locker room, and clearly they responded because it was a great performance by that secondary unit in the second half. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. It's funny, when Shake Milton was on the floor and you saw him check in, I made a joke to myself, right? And the guy in front of me started laughing. I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. Shake Milton again. And he started laughing. I said, watch, my man's going to end up hitting 3 threes or something to shut both of us up. And as soon as he hit the first one, the guy looked back and laughed. And then he hits the other one, and he's like, oh, my God, really? There's a buzzer beater involved, and he's playing that two-man game with Dwight Howard, getting Dwight Howard going. And even if Shake Milton missed the shot, Dwight Howard gets the offensive rebound and puts it back, and just providing the Dwight Howard nonsense. I like to call it nonsense because he's just so goofy, and he's so out there, and he's so crazy. But we feed off of that. That's his role. Everybody knows that's his role. He's supposed to spark the fans, spark the team, and he does that with his nonsense. And, yeah, it's just crazy that all happened. So I thought Seth was great. A lot of guys had some big moments. Danny Green struggled. He had the one play off of tip-off that was something nice to kind of set the tone, but from there, jacked up a lot of threes. Poor defensively, and I brought up Seth. Seth has been bad defensively as well, but the difference is you can score, and that changes the perspective when you score on how much you are getting targeted on the defensive side of that the court. So Seth is getting targeted. There's no doubt about it. And Danny Green has been bad too. Fighting through screens, bad. Fighting through everything. He's just been lackadaisical. And from a veteran, maybe it's just the fact that his body is getting up there. A lot of miles on the tires. He's played a lot of minutes. Last season, he won the championship. There wasn't that much time to kind of regenerate yourself, to get your stamina back in place, to get your legs back as you normally do with a regular offseason. So maybe it's just wear and tear for Danny Green, but he has been getting shredded defensively. And on top of that, he's not producing offensively. Now, I will say this, because there was a lot of frustration with him as he went out there and he shot some threes, and it would be a pull-up in transition. Why, Danny? Why are you doing that? He had 8 assists. He had 8 assists. If there was another individual on this team that did not have a great day at the office one day offensively but recorded 8 assists, it would be, you don't know what he does. You don't know how well he passes. You don't see his facilitation. You don't recognize that he is setting your team up with all these other points. So if you're going to say that about Benjamin Simmons, you have to have that same mentality with Danny Green. 8 assists is more than what Ben Simmons gave you in the assist department, so maybe it wasn't his greatest day offensively. But then you can't shred him because he facilitated so beautifully and picked up so many assists. No, I'm just keeping it 100 for all the Ben Simmons stands out there that somehow can just pretend like shooting a basketball does not matter. This was a good game by the team. You had a good, solid team win. Doc Rivers pushed all the right buttons. Your MVP scored 40 points, and when it comes to his career, he just consistently does something that amazes you every single time. He was great on both ends, and with this knee meniscus tear, I was very nervous. I was very scared that he wasn't going to be the Joel Embiid that we needed to. He'd be questionable every single game. We're not going to know if he's playing. He's going to play game 1. He's going to miss game 2. He's going to miss game 3. He's going to play game 4. I was just so nervous that that's what it was because, look, it's a meniscus tear. It's no joke. It's not something tiny. Well, in theory, yes, it's a tiny tear, a small tear, but any sort of meniscus tear that we are having the discussion about, it's important. It's not something that should not be discussed. It matters. It's something that's painful. It causes discomfort. So the fact that Joel is doing this, I mean, it really shows you how dominant and how much of a force he really is. Clint Capella should be scared. Every single damn day he sees the Sixers on the schedule for the next handful of games, yeah, I'd be nervous as hell because there's nothing I want to deal with when it comes to Joel. 1 leg, no legs, 2 legs. 1 arm, no arm, 2 arms. It doesn't matter with this man. He finds a way to get buckets, and he puts you to shame. Really, he puts shame on your name. Joel is a walking highlight reel. Ben Simmons. 3 field goals is a joke. It's a fucking joke. The team won the basketball game. That's what matters. This is going to get overshadowed. You don't pay $30 to $40 million for a guy who plays good defense on Trae Young. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Ben Simmons was a fucking joke today offensively. It's so tough to watch anymore. He runs up the floor and he hands it off and he goes hides out in the dunker spot. It's unacceptable. It really is. And you're lucky. You're lucky that you have a team surrounding you where you don't have to be that guy like in years past. Well, guess what? If you don't need to be that guy that we thought you could be in years past, you don't need to be making $30 to $40 million. $30 to $40 million over the next handful of years per season, and he's putting up 3 field goals in a game. It just cannot happen. Now, Jackson Frank, who covers the Sixers, he does an amazing job. He tweeted this out during the game. Ben Simmons has been relegated to the dunker spot in the half court for the second time in as many games this series. I mean, that's what you have to do, considering that's Ben Simmons with this lack of progression in the offensive game. Now, he didn't say that part. I added that part. He just mentioned that this is the second time in as many games that he went to the dunker spot. He continues by saying, the Sixers can't just slot him there against this lineup. He needs to attack the mismatches more. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. 6'10" body frame. Amazing. Stellar. So damn good. So damn big. 6'10" at the point guard position. You have mismatches all over the floor. Every single game. Every fucking game. You have it. Ben, every fucking game. Every game. 3 fucking shots. 3 shots. I'm sorry. Did it matter today? You know what? It didn't because of Shake Milton late, but there was a time where he was on the court, second half, the Hawks take the lead, free throws. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. It's a joke. This guy is an embarrassment. He's such a fraud. He really is. I'm sick and tired of it. I am so embarrassed for him that this is the Ben Simmons that we get. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm sorry. You know, I'm done with it. I'm done with this Ben Simmons. I can't believe that anyone's talking about this 3 shots. He was playing great defense. Let me know a defender in this league that makes $40 million a year because of his defense, and he can't provide any offense at all. And a player that gives you 0 offense. And the player that comes to my mind, right, is Rudy Gobert. So Rudy Gobert right now is signed a 5-year, $205 million contract. All right, he's also a big man. He's not your point guard, which changes a lot in this conversation, who carries the ball up. He makes 25. He's making $25 million, or was that, nope, this is 2020, 2021. $25 million this year. He has, and I knew that's why I brought this up, 35 next year. He signed an extension, 38, 41, 43, 46. So Rudy Gobert is your answer. By the way, a lot of you would call Rudy Gobert an absolute fraud and ripping him apart as well, just saying, because I hear the drama around Rudy Gobert. So Rudy Gobert, but I'll tell you what, there's a big difference between being a center and being your primary point guard. It's a joke. It's a joke. It is so bad. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to handle it anymore. It bothers me so much. I lose sleep over it because I'll never understand. There will never be anything in my brain that tells me that this is okay. I don't care about his points. It doesn't matter because he plays elite deep. No. It's an issue. It's an issue. So, the reason why it doesn't feel like it is because you have Joel Embiid. So you're telling me that a superstar changes the game that much? Yes. And what is Ben Simmons potentially, if there were things added to his game? A superstar. And it would be just incredible to have 2 of those on your team instead of 1. What it would be like to have 2 of those on your team instead of 1. And this is still a good Sixers team. This is still an amazing Sixers team. Thank you, Joel Embiid. Thank you, some of the supporting cast. And Ben played a big role. Ben played a big role in this win defensively. I'm not discrediting that. That is very important. I see that. I value that. But to pretend like that's the only thing that we should be proud of is disrespectful. It's unacceptable, in my opinion. And for as much as you say, well, basketball is not only one side of the floor. You're right. It's 2 sides of the floor. It's 2 sides of the floor. It's not just one. You're right. So it's not just the defensive side. And you're right, it's not just the offensive side. But basketball is a two-sided floor here. Both sides matter. Well, please keep it 100 then if both sides matter. Let's go to DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It is easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. Bet on any basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you will claim $100 in free credits. That's promo code Brodes for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Wager paid out inside credits. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And just one more thing on Ben before we get to the Anytime Hotline. He gets fouled. What ends up happening? Goes to the free throw line, goes 0 for 2. Doc Rivers subs him out. But just a handful of games ago, the media rightfully asked Doc Rivers about what he would do down the road. Would you ever take Ben Simmons off the floor in that situation? What? You don't know anything about basketball? You want me to take Ben Simmons off the floor? No. I'm not doing that. He's too good. I'm not doing that. No. I'm not doing that. He's too good. Well, Doc, let's see here. 2 games later, and he did it. You did it. And I heard you post-game, and you admitted they wanted to foul Ben. I didn't want them to do that. I wouldn't allow for them to do that, so I took Ben off the floor. Oh, okay. Okay. So the questions were valid after Game 4 in the Washington series when all the media members were constantly drilling you with a bunch of questions, wondering what you're going to do with Ben Simmons. You did the exact thing that you called us foolish for. You came after the fan base. You came after the media. Just crazy. I'm just tired of it. It's been 4 years of it. It's mind-blowing to me that we're still having the same conversations. That's all. And it's upsetting because I think it is beating me down internally. It's crushing my soul, as it should, though. It's not wrong for me to feel this way. This is called hitting a boiling point and being frustrated with a player that hasn't shown the growth that he needed to show. And here's a team on a playoff run that is embracing an MVP that got snubbed due to not having enough games and going on a nice magical ride. And this is still going to eat me alive, as it should, though. As it should. It should not be thrown to the side. It should not be pretended like it doesn't matter. And it will, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm losing my mind over it. And I'm willing to admit that. And I'm willing to also note that that's okay. And it's not wrong. So anyway, let's head on over to the Anytime Hotline. Here we go.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Shake Milton going off, Embiid with 40 points tonight. That's how you do it. Get those fans happy. I know I'm happy. I'm hyped. Let's get this series, Sixers.
Yeah, look, I think they did everything they needed to do. They had to definitely shore up their defense. There were way too many wide open looks in Game 1. There were way too many three-pointers made. Lackadaisical on the defensive side. They shortened it up big time. And Joel, Ben, and Matisse Thybulle, I think they were the three-headed monster. Three-headed monster defensively, and they swarmed Trae Young. And I think that they're going to come back with some counter moves to try and free open some other options and to kind of work through their offense through some different sets when they know what's coming. But hopefully Doc Rivers has the counter to the counter. Trae Young was definitely in a little bit of a annoyed state of mind, I would say. You could tell that he was bothered. 1 of 7 from 3. When you're a sharpshooter, when you're one of those guys that can cross half court, let it fly and let it rip, and you're going 1 of 7 and you can't get into rhythm, and they're doing well on the pick and roll. They're coming out. They're swarming you. They're pouncing on you, forcing you to get that opportunity. And, or not really. They're forcing you so you don't have that opportunity. They're getting up into your grill. They're fighting over screens. The big man coming up, or if Ben Simmons was there, getting the ball away so Clint Capella can't get a lob up there. It was all around sharpening what all the issues were. We claimed it from the jump. We watched what happened in the second half, and we knew if the Sixers cleaned up their game that they were going to be just fine. They were going to outscore their opponent. It wasn't the easiest. It wasn't the prettiest. There were some flaws involved, and there was some ugly plays that went down. There were some bad stretches. But it's a game of basketball. It's a game of runs, and ultimately what makes a good team is having someone that can do it, no matter who it is on that given night. Someone has to do it, and not every team has that. The fact that Shake Milton, albeit has been brutal, albeit has been miserable, he has not been a factor for you, and he's been unplayable for, let's say, 95% of his minutes called on. It's been that much of a disgrace. It's in there. The skill set is in there. Nobody's doubting that. It's just actually applying it and witnessing it on the floor. And you saw that. The fact that you have that sitting on your bench, unfortunately, lately, it's been 12 bad games in a row, and then this, which isn't something that you could rely on, but there was a different confidence in Shake, killer mentality when Shake was in a groove, and you could just watch him. When he's running up the floor, dribbling the ball, he was going to shoot it in rhythm. He wasn't going to hesitate, and in transition, he was going to let it fly, and the one that comes to my mind off the top of my head, he ended up missing, but that's not the point. The point is Trae Young couldn't do what Shake Milton could do today, and that's score effectively. And not turning the ball over, huge part of the success. Crazy what happens when you don't give the other team free points in transition off turnovers. Just crazy, isn't it?
Saved by none other than Shake Milton. Who would have thought that? I mean, props to him. He stepped up when it mattered most. I mean, I don't know what to say. I hope this isn't an excuse to, make him a sixth man again, because I still don't think he's very good. But you got to do what you got to do to win that game. I mean, it was a close game. They were making a comeback, and Shake Milton just turned into Steph Curry. Or should I say Steph Curry, who's been phenomenal this series, really. Steph Curry deserves a lot of credit. And this man, Joel Embiid, is dropping 40 points on a torn meniscus. And he's giving 100% effort. I mean, what more can you say about him? This is a new Joel Embiid. He was not doing this in years past. He's giving 110% out there.
And that's why I think that I get so flustered with the Ben Simmons thing, because you're right. This is a different Joel Embiid. This is what you project superstars to become. And this is crazy. I don't even think we're doing it justice. As you're saying that on the phone call, Joel Embiid doing this on a torn meniscus, and Joel Embiid, I'm like, wow, we just say that so casually. We just throw it out there into normal dialogue as if playing basketball in the NBA during the playoffs with a torn meniscus and dropping 39 points followed by 40 points and going to work, giving maximum effort, flying all over the floor, being the leader that you need Joel Embiid to be, and essentially the difference maker that's changed this franchise around to this epic elite level. On a torn meniscus. It's just crazy. It doesn't even make any sense. And he's putting guys into foul trouble. He's posting you up. He's flailing his arms. He's going to the charity stripe. He's jab stepping you. He's hitting the mid-range game, hitting threes, slamming in your face, bringing the house down. You name it. Joel Embiid was the rock today. He was the rock of your team. He was when I say that, that almost makes it seem like he was the wrestler. He wasn't the wrestler. I guess I'm saying he was your anchor. He set everybody in place. He set that tone there. After Tobias Harris's 16-point first quarter. After that, Tobias faded out a bit, but Joel stepped in. Shake stepped up. You had it. You had the victory. All right, what do we have next here? Here we go.
So we all know Joel Embiid obviously balled out, probably played his best game in the postseason. But I want to give a special shout out to Shake Milton. I think Shake Milton won, not that he won us the game, but Shake Milton coming up and taking advantage of the minutes that Doc Rivers just gave him really helped out and allowed us to win this game and allowed us to rest most of our starters for most of the fourth quarter. So I want to give a special shout out to Shake Milton.
As you should. As you should. You should feel like Shake Milton deserves a lot of praise. I don't know what this means long term. You would imagine that after a game like this, you still have the swag and it carries over because you're confident. You got to have the confidence. He's been shot in that area for basically the last handful of months, and he hasn't been the production that we needed him to be. I don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing. If he has one bad quarter, that can snowball and spiral into something that we don't want to see again. So I truly don't know. I can't wait to see how he responds, though. He had a lot of adversity in his life in the last, handful of months. It's not easy to go to the arena every day knowing that you were supposed to be a sixth-man role, and all of a sudden you're finding yourself getting 30 seconds in a playoff game in game one, and you're turning the ball over, and you've been costing your team more than you have been helping your team in recent times. So I understand how that can be tough in the brain when you're trying to clock in and clock out. When your number gets called, you have to go out there. So you have to somehow put it behind you. It's sort of like a defensive back in football. If you get torched by Julio Jones, you can't sit out there and whine and bitch about it. You're going to get your number called again, basically, probably right after that, and you got to shut him the hell up. Well, Shake Milton got his number called, and you're going to have to shut everybody the hell up, and he basically did to me and the individual behind me as well. Or no, in front of me. The gentleman was sitting in front of me. We are going to utilize, if you have not heard your phone call, there's plenty of more phone calls. And if you haven't left your voicemail yet, 856-442-9805. Since we have a few days to continue to talk Sixers, I'll implement those throughout the week in our conversations. That'll be done for tonight's show in that area. But yeah, look, I had a lot of fun. It was a lot of excitement in that building. It was really fun energy to be around, and it was a big win because going down 0-2 heading to Atlanta would be a nightmare. A lot of guys played their role, and this team does a great job when they play their role. That's why they're the number one seed for a reason. They have their roles, they've played their roles well, and when they do that, you seem to be on top more times than not, even though the Ben Simmons thing will make me lose sleep. And that's just reality of the situation. I'm not going to hide from that. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't impact me. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't losing my damn mind watching this game just because they came out victorious. And I don't think that makes you a bad fan. That doesn't make you a bad person that analyzes the team. If you're objectively looking at Ben Simmons, my brain's fried. My brain is fried. I've lost it. I've lost it with him. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.